Salvēte, omnēs. Hi everybody. The last lesson covered a lot of new material, so let's review a little. Do you remember what the following phrase means? Discipulī et discipulae in schola student. The male students and female students study in school. Both the verb and the two types of students are plural, and schola is in the ablative form. Now try to say the farmers walk. Agricolae ambulant. Did you put both words in plural form? The next one's a little harder. Can you think of how to say the gods live in Olympus? Dei in Olympo habitant. When the group is all men or mixed, we use the male plural form. But, for example, if we were talking about a group that is all female, as in, the female friends flee, we would say, amīcae fugitant. Can you remember the Latin word for to read? It conjugated a little bit differently than the other verbs. It was ego lego, like lego my ego, and then to legis, followed by legit. For the plural, we can't just add an N. We have to switch the vowel to U. So the poets read is Poētae legunt. We learned 3 other verbs that conjugate like this. Can you recall them? The first is related to reading, because before you can read a letter, someone has to what it. Say, the male students write a letter. Discipulī epistulam scrībunt. Try to remember that. For reading and writing, we have it and unt. And the second was in the proverb we learned. He who teaches, say, the female students learn. Discipulī discunt. So of the verbs we've learned so far, the ones that are connected to studying, we have to study a little more. Reading, writing, learning. And the final verb is the other things students often do. Drink. Say, the girls drink. Puellae bibunt. We is also a plural form, and also gets its own conjugation. But it's really easy to remember because we walk is ambulamus. Do you see the connection? We, us, ambulam, us. Verbs conjugated in we form always end in mus. Say now, we walk into the forest. In silvam ambulamus. The Latin word for we is nos. Notice that we have tu ambulas and nos ambulamus. The vowel before s and mus is the same. Do you remember how to say you drink? Tu bibis. Say now, we drink in the forest, and this time use the word for we. Nos in silva bibimus. Because it's tu bibis, we have nos bibimus. And how would we say, the poet and I read? Poēta et ego legimus. Do you understand why we used legimus instead of legunt? Because the subject included ego. Via means road in Latin. We travel via road. And to deviate is to depart from the established course. Let's say now the road is long. Via longa est. Now we'll change it to the plural form. Viae longae sunt. Every word changed form, but you expected that, right? Because the adjective has to match the noun, and the verb has to change also when the subject is plural. And from this, we see that the plural of est is sunt, similar to bibunt. We will see this word so much that you'll have no trouble remembering it, so don't worry. Let's learn another proverb. Omnes viae Romam ducunt. Do you remember the phrase I've been saying at the beginning of the lessons? Salvēte, omnēs. This second word means all. It is the plural form of omnis, which sometimes combines with words to make compounds like omnipotens, or all-powerful, and omnivoros, eats everything. And I'm sure you can guess the meaning of Roma. So in this sentence we have all roads and something to do with Rome. Do you recognize the proverb? All roads lead to Rome. So the verb ducunt means lead. Just like an air duct leads air to each room, and to deduce is to bring to a conclusion. And think about the verbs discunt and legunt for a moment. How would we say the road leads to Rome? Via Romam ducit. Because it's discit and legit. Nota bene. Notice that we used Romam by itself. Certain places don't require a preposition, and Rome is one of them. But we conjugate it in the accusative form because it's the object or aim of the verb. The next sentence is a gimme. Roma in Italia est. Rome is in Italy. Hopefully you knew that. But with Italy, we used in plus the ablative, just like in Silva. Using this, say Italy is in Europe. Italia in Europa est. Now comes the crazy part. Romae habito. I live in Rome. This is neither the possessive form nor the plural form. There is yet another form that shares the same I ending. This is called the dative case, and it indicates the indirect object of the verb or the recipient of the verb. So it's like saying Rome receives the inhabiting. Let's explore this case some more. Poēta Agricolae legit. The poet reads to the farmer. The farmer is the recipient of the reading. Since poēta is the nominative case and the verb is legit, the subject must be the poet. So no matter how we arrange the sentence, there's no ambiguity. However, if we add epistulam, then the sentence can have two different meanings. Poēta Agricolae epistulam legit. This can mean either the poet reads the letter to the farmer, or the poet reads the farmer's letter, as we already learned. The fact that some of the cases are the same can get a little annoying, but usually the context makes the meaning clear. Nevertheless, this is probably the hardest part about reading Latin. A better verb for demonstrating the dative is the word for to give. This verb is dare, and is a little bit irregular, as we can see by the fact that the infinitive is dare and not dare. Let's try this verb with the dative declension for a male noun. Discipula, discipulo, gladium, dat. The female student gives a sword to the male student. Dropping us and adding o gives the dative form for masculine nouns. Can you remember what declension this is the same as? It matches the ablative form, so this too can be ambiguous. We really have to have context when deciphering Latin because so many of the forms match. Here comes a harder sentence now. Discipulo, amīcae, librum, do. I give a book to the student's female friend. We have to pay attention to conjugation and declension in this sentence since the verb do indicates that the subject is an unstated ego and not the first word in this sentence. Can you figure out this sentence? Magistro tunicam das. You give the male teacher a tunic. Do you remember that we learned magistra before? That was the feminine form of the word. Magister indicates a male teacher and declines just like liber. So it is magister in the nominative form, but all other declensions drop the e. So we have magistrum, magistri, magistro, etc. Nota bene, the conjugation for you give is das, with a short vowel, just like dare. In the present tense, this verb always has a short vowel, which is what makes it slightly irregular. Using this fact, try to say, "We give the girl water," and use the word for we. Nos Puellae aquam damas. Did you remember that the conjugation contains us? Can you figure out the meaning of the next sentence? Optimus sum, quod possum legere. I am the best because I can read. Optimal is obviously related to Optimus. We just have to remove the al and add the Latin endings to use this word. How would you say this sentence if you're a woman? Optimus sum, quod possum legere. Two more words will be briefly introduced for this lesson's story and used more in later lessons. Amicum volo. I want a friend. This verb doesn't have a direct English connection, but perhaps saying volontiers will help you remember it, because you volontier for things you want to do, usually. Another example is Nunc scribere volo. Now I want to read. And the other word we need is in this sentence. Hic laboro. I work here. The various forms of the verb to be can also mean there is, there are, etc. For example, hic sunt libri. There are books here. Or the much cooler, hic sunt dracones. Here be dragons. There are a few other words in this lesson's story, but they resemble their English counterparts so closely that I'm sure you can understand them. Let's go! Roma optima est. Viae Romanae directae sunt, et aqua clara est. Hic tunicae pulchrae sunt, et arma splendida sunt. Volo hic habitare. The first sentence is easy to understand. In the second we have viae is the plural form of via, and Romanae is the genitive form. So this means Rome's streets, or streets of Rome. And directa obviously means direct, or in this case straight. So we have the streets of Rome are straight. And did you guess what clara means? The sentence is talking about good qualities of Rome and says the water is clear. Clara, clear. Then we have the new words arma, splendida. The second is obvious, and you can probably guess that the first means arms, as in weapons. So we have the arms are splendid. And in the final sentence, we have the two words we just learned. Nota bene. The two verbs are placed first and last to place emphasis on them, like saying, I want to live here. That's all for this lesson. If you like these lessons, please consider supporting this channel on Patreon. There's a link below. And be sure to like, subscribe, and share.